Hello, here we are, December 12th, 11th, sorry. Anyhow, 2024. So tonight I'm going to speak on something I've done several times, but more intense about it tonight. And the reason why is because of where things are at. I'm going to talk about addictions tonight, how you can help a person that's got addictions. It's going to happen in your family, everywhere around. And you got to be able to understand how to reach out to a person like that. There's not enough groups or organizations in the world to take care of the problems with addictions that are coming. So really, a lot of individuals are going to rise up to the cause and help. But you have to learn a lot of things about how to identify the do's and don'ts. There's some really important do's and don'ts. And you can learn it the hard way or the easy way. So what we're going to try to do, I'm going to try to establish some points tonight for you to understand. So why do I believe there's going to be a massive increase? One thing is because their economic situation is going over the world. All the different type of issues going on, including the increase of narcissism, which is going to affect a lot of things. It's known among narcissists that um, one key character that they have is they have a problem with addiction. So we'll cover a lot of this and why, what, where. I'm going more general today, just to bring a broad line to, so if you're ever in that situation, you know what to do. Now, I will speak about it in two ways. One, just the natural person, but the other one is a person who has faith, who walks with power, because everybody is available and can make a difference. So that's what I'm going to try to bring forward right now. All right, so here we go. One, understanding what addiction is. Well, most people limit it to drug and alcohol. It goes further than that. But where I'm going to focus more on is things that affect the person, which is drugs and alcohol. And is there other things? Of course there is. But we'll use that first because those are the things you'll see in your family, in your friends, and how to properly help. And even if you come across in the streets and find somebody, you have to know the do's and don'ts so that you keep yourself safe. You can actually honestly help. You don't have to be an expert, but to help, you have to know where to and where not to go. And the time, and that's important too. Understanding when you see, I'll come back a bit here. Sorry, I'm just going to clean this off my shirt. It's bothering me like crazy. There you go. So, first of all, everybody's going to experience somebody who's got severe addictions in your home, your neighbor, or in your work environment, or just along the road where you go. It's understanding what you can do. A lot of times, if somebody knows you, they may block you from really talking to them, but that's because they want to keep control. Now, you have to understand this that there's different types of reactions with people with addiction. Some people that have addictions, they really see themselves as the victim. They're sorrowful. They feel the whole world has done them wrong, and the bottle is their lover, their friend, their helper, and they lean towards drugs and alcohol to basically avoid the responsibility, the feeling, or the sense. But not everyone falls under that category. Something may have happened to somebody when they were younger and something that shames them, that they really dislike, that they want to get away from. That person is going to have a hard time getting away from what their addiction is because they use that addiction to drown out the pain from that. So there is true cases where people have pain that's come from other situations. When you meet people like that, you have to understand when and when not to communicate. When a person is actually under the influence of whatever they're using, that is a time where you might find them where they're weeping, they're crying, they look like they really want to talk, but really in that moment they're in their moment of self-pity. And when you try talking to them, then they'll sound like they're understanding and willing, and you'll talk to them. And sometimes they'll talk to you for hours just because they want somebody to listen to their sorrow. But it doesn't mean you're getting anywhere. You may have a full conversation that time. Most of the time, you're wasting your time. But you never lose the opportunity to give hope to the person. Short, sweet, to the point, something that just tells them they're valuable is something important. Because it may stick with them and it may not. When they're under the influence, your words could be forgotten totally. And don't take offense to that. That's where they're at. The next day, when they wake up, they go through depression. In that depression, they might be sorrowful and really willing to listen, but you think it's really going somewhere. And when they start coming out of that depression, they could actually be mad at you because they're feeling now you took advantage of them, or they're in that moment of depression, now they're not, and they're going to be strong. You may feel ripped off because you've stood that time with them, you talked with them, and then they turn on you. You got to remember they protect themselves very strong. They protect their addiction strong because they know that if they open up too much, they've got to let go of that. But it's not just letting go. Some people it's extreme. Some people it's they're less addicted. They can see that their life is really really going to go in a bad way, and they want to hear something. But you got to know also the times to talk to them. Is it really that hard? No, just remember that if they're under the influence or they're the next morning in their depression, you may be wasting your time. After time, you'll be able to know if you've spoken to enough people, you'll know whether you're getting somewhere or not. But during the addiction, when they're under the influence, I wouldn't put much time into that. Just a quick word of hope, and that's good. But they might also cling to you because they're looking for somebody to be there for them at that moment, and that's not healthy either. That I'll talk about more as we go on. But you have to understand, is the person that's addicted that's in front of you, are they what you could call a suicidal addictions, where they actually don't care if they die in their addiction. They just want to be away from everything. They want to be away from responsibility. They want to drown everything out. That person is most likely to be either light or severe into suicidal mode, where it's like some people may have an eating habit and they're committing suicide by food. Well, an alcoholic or drug person may be doing the same. They just can't stand the natural world around them, so they drown it out to a point where they don't care whether they live or die. When you're dealing with a person like that, you have to know that it's going to be very hard to speak to them if you don't have good knowledge. You don't have to be an expert, but what you have to do is you remember this: you're not trying to reach their mind. If you try to convince them, they're way ahead of you. What you want to do is show them that they're valuable, restore hope. That is the most important thing with anybody, anywhere, in any situation. Restore hope. Don't be overly preachy because that they won't remember half the stuff you say. Choose your words well. Make sure that your words are to edify, to encourage the person, to build them up, to make them believe that tomorrow is a better day. Now, this is the key, most important thing. If you want to help somebody with addiction, absolutely never, never carry them. So what this is like if you take and you put them in a home, you start doing all types of things for them, and you start to see them through, they could actually get to a point where they stop drinking, but doesn't mean they're healed. What it means is that they have a feeling, a sense of safety. The ones that are deeply into their addiction, I doubt you'll get them to that point, but it doesn't mean you can't do other things. The most important thing is the person has to know that you really value them as a human being. You don't agree with what they're doing, but you don't need to make that vocal. You could just show that you're pointing in another direction, but never carry them. Walk with them. If you carry them, the moment you disappear out of their sight, then they've been abandoned and they could start turning again and going even worse into things. So make sure that when you reach out to a person who's got an addiction, that you encourage them, you build them up, but you do it with them. So if they don't want to participate, you can't carry them. You're not doing anything. You won't help them that way. They might have mistrust. They might not believe there's a hope. So you keep talking about hope, but don't prove to them who you are. Just be who you are. Be real. And if you care about them, that's the one thing that will shock them because they don't believe anybody cares a lot of times. And if they're in their depressive mode, be careful not to become their savior. If you do, then when you let them down, they're going to crash. So absolutely, if you're going to help somebody who's got an addiction, You have to know that you see value in them and you want to build with them, you want to encourage them, but you don't want to take the responsibilities away. So in your own thought, you understand this. Am I encouraging them or am I taking over the responsibility? If you take over the responsibility, you're no help to them. You're only problem. So there is a time, yes, they might need a healing process and a healing to get through the first step. But again, somebody who's well trained and understands this, they know you do it with them, not for them. And they might look like they're not going to go anywhere, but it doesn't matter. If it takes them an hour to do something, where another person take 1 minute, don't take over. Let them take that hour. Work with them. And because every time they do something and accomplish, they'll get strength out of that accomplishment. Now, I'm not talking about the regular person that has a binge day. I'm talking about real addiction. I could talk more about the binge day, but first we'll talk about this. The binge day people, is it a form of addiction? It depends on what they did and why they need to binge. So it might be a future addiction looking for a place to happen. So not all binge days are that. Sometimes the person just wants to drown things out or just wants to be happy. A lot of young people, they believe if they binge out and they don't feel they have any responsibilities, they can do what they want. That's why they'll go and do all the shots and everything else. It's because they want to have a moment where they can't be responsible because it wasn't their fault. And that's another story altogether. Now, as we move forward, you'll find this that even in your family, friends, neighbors, people will start giving up. It's going to be tough what's coming up economically throughout the world. The resources are going to be tough. Some people will rise up and get out there and do what it takes to make it by. Others will think, ah, and they'll do anything. Um, they'll find any way of finding something that could appease their feelings inside. Is there counseling involved? Is there things with family issues and whatever? Unless you really are trained in that, it's not good to go deep in there because you're going to be bringing up anger and all types of things that you may not be able to deal with. Now, again, I said I was going to be general purposely because I want to show you that you can do something, but know your limitations when to back out. If you're walking along a road and it's fairly dark, there's not a lot of people around, it's you very rarely see people, and you come across somebody who's laying down on the ground and they seem to be very, very drunk. It's not always smart to approach that person because you're alone. You don't know how they're going to react. Were they in a rage before they passed out? Are they thinking that they're being attacked? All types of things. You should not get down close to them. What you need to do is you can tap their foot lightly. Most likely, if they're that out of it, they're not going to be able to run pretty fast or straight. If so, you keep yourself in a safe position, but don't be at a place where they can reach and grab you and be at a place where you can just tap their foot gently to see if they're really so badly out of it. If they're terribly out of it and they're in a dangerous position, there's a way I saw this in the Philippines. They break branches off and they put branches in front of them. The problem is if you got a foreigner comes by, he doesn't know what those branches mean. So you better hope those branches don't. If it's a Yahoo from a foreigner thinking I'll just push the branches with my bumper, well, they're going to hear thump thump. And so I don't think it's the best idea. Putting up things to protect the person, yes. In our countries, getting the authority to help is very important because you want to make sure that person's safe. If they're convulsing or doing things, you need to get help. If there's more than a few of you there, then great, one can go get help. But you got to know this. You do not know how to deal with them. If you understand, if you've taken first aid and stuff, you could put them in the recovery position. You can do stuff with them. But you have to understand that they're not in their normal state. They could turn on you. So how do you help them? You be gentle, be caring, but always think of your safety. Your safety comes first. Always look to get somebody else to help. And if there's drunks fighting, please don't ever get in there. You're not going to help the situation. Unless you're big and you know how to handle yourself, it's not a safe thing to do because in their mind they believe what they're doing. There's places where you don't go. Now, is that got to do with the drugs too? Same thing. It's the same thing. People have paranoid thinkings, they'll pop up. when they're under the influence. You don't want to jump in between that. If somebody's paranoid delusions, you don't want to mess with that. Unless you really understand where and when to back off. But you're not an arbitrator. You're there to simply encourage a person that's in trouble. But if they're not wanting that help, then back off and understand right away. If they tell you to back off, that's not a signal that you need to show more empathy. That's a signal that they're telling you that they don't want you messing in their corner. You may be able to help them another time. At that moment, you say, yes, sorry, thank you, and show them that you're not a threat, that you're not trying to be an imperialist over them, but that you're there, you just care. And but a lot of times, if they see your empathy, they'll try to use that too. They'll try to get money out of you. Please do not give money to somebody who's under the influence and out, and you're not helping them. If they need food, you get them the food, but don't give them money. You're only going to be helping the opposite. And sometimes you mean well, you want to, you know, they'll even tell you they need to get a room for the night. It's like that's not where it's going to go. Rarely. And there's any place you go in the world, there's shelters for people that are in need of a place. Yeah, they'll say no, drunks aren't allowed, but there's places that are specifically designed for people who are under the influence. If they're aggressive or dangerous, then the police probably will take them to a station to let them wear it off. There's going to be such a need, even in your family. But you got to know that a person who is under the influence or under addictions, they will vilify you to get you to back off. And they will act like you're the problem. And the reason they do this is because they're coddling their addiction. You don't want to start playing that game. If they're behaving that way, back off. Now, what can you do? If you've seen them around, then wait for another day where they're sober. And you could say, hey, you seem in distress the other night. I just want to make sure you're okay. And if they're in their right mind, they'll probably embarrass and go, yeah, but do not do it when they're in that depressed mode because they'll probably go along with you, but it doesn't mean you're getting any headroom into it. So make a point that if you see them like that another time, just show them that you care, that you really, and they're probably going to ask you for money. That's usually what they do. And you could say, sorry, I have no change with me or whatever. Work it out, but the money is not going to go towards, say, if you want some food, I can get you some food and bring it back to you. And sometimes they'll try to show that that's not what they were doing. So they'll say yes, and you bring back the food and they won't eat it. Now, who could be um, on the streets severely addicted? Well, when I was in Toronto, I remember I came up to a man and he was in a doorway of a closed store, and I sat with him for a little bit, talked with him, and he said yes, yes, get me a coffee. So I went and got him a coffee, brought it back, and that just shows him that I do care about who he is. And I sat and talked more with him, and I found out that it was quite. And I checked the story; it checked out. He was actually one of the top CEOs of a bank, and what happened is that something went wrong, and it changed. Um, sorry for a second here. I'm just going to do something. Hi, sorry about that. So what happens is that he was a CEO of a very big bank, and there's a lot of politicals and politics and things that happen. And one day he decided, I'm done with this, and he hung up everything up. And here he was living on the streets of Toronto, and you kind of wonder, why is he on the street of Toronto? And you could be sure that he had a big house, wealthy house. His wife probably left him, all types of things. I don't know the story on that, didn't get there. But a lot of times people will abandon you when you start walking in severe addictions. But you know something? The person with the addiction is not the one that suffers the most. It's the family. A person with addiction will usually see themselves as a victim and everyone picking on them, everyone harming their life, and that's how they see it. So it's important to understand that when you help, don't listen to every sob story. most of them are rabbit trails and you're not going to get anywhere. This guy was truthful. He did end up just giving up. The fullness of what happened in there, I didn't get. It doesn't matter. What it tells you is that somebody from a very high position can end up on the streets. And you go, how, what, where? Somewhere along the way, he pulled away the plug on dealing with and living life and being responsible and said, that's it. I don't want this anymore. I'm done. As he did that, things started to fall apart for him. So here he was on the streets of Toronto, and that's where he was. And you go, how come? You know, you can bust your brain about that. What's important is what can you do for this man? Well, this man, you're not going to start telling him a whole bunch of niceries. It's not going to go anywhere. Platitudes don't work with a guy like that. He's come from a place where he's got very clear pick understanding. What he needs is hope restored. So obviously the banking system was just a pain for him, but there's other things in life. So casual conversations, just little moments of hope. For people of faith, I would say, tell them about God. Tell them about how he'll encourage help, and you'll probably find that they have that in their background too. A lot of people that are addicts that are on the streets have had many church groups come and talk to them. They could almost recite to you what you're going to say. That doesn't mean it's effective. What's being really effective is it's not how much you train them, teach them, it's how much you can reach them where it hits, or it really counts. So fewer words and more accurate to what it takes for a human being to stand back up and have hope again is what you want to do. Encourage them. If there's something there in your conversation, it'll pop up, something will happen. But whatever it is, just let them know that they're valuable. And not the word you're valuable. It's like, oh yeah, I've never heard that before. So what you need to do is find something that could be identified that's pretty accurate. Remember that a lot of people in that position, some of them have mental issues and it's hidden by the rest of the stuff. And you may trigger something like that. Understand how to de-escalate. The most important thing you want to help people like that, learn about de-escalating is the most important thing. And there's ways if a person gets aggressive, you can go like this, hey, I'm sorry, man, because this is more of a position a person takes when they're non-threat. That doesn't mean don't get ready to make sure you're safe, but it's letting a person know that you're not a threat to them. Say you could turn around and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to assume anything here. I'm not here to I'm here because if you say I care at that moment, they'll take you out to lunch because they go, yeah, yeah, you care, sure. And you're not gonna get very far. So what you want to do instead is say more, say, I'm very interested to find out why people are here. And I want to learn because I want to see if I can make a difference. Now, you're not saying to them, you're no good. You're saying to them that you really want their situation to be better. And that's where they'll probably hit you and say, give me some money. And you say, I'm sorry, I don't have one with me. I live by card. And that's it. If they're bold enough, they'll say, go get me a bottle. And you go, oh, no, 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 don't do that. So I encourage you not to neglect that you can make a difference. But don't go in there as a hero, don't go in there as a savior, and don't go in there as a fixer. If you do any of those, you're going to regret it. Go in there as a person that simply says, hey, how you doing? And get there. If they want to give you a name, give them. If they give you a funny name, don't say, is that really your name? Don't get into that. Don't cross-examine them. You won't get anywhere. Just simply show that you're a kind person without saying it. Let it show. Then start helping them. Now, um, a lot of people that are along the way on the streets, um, you could have a lovely conversation with them, and they'll steal from you. Not because they want to do you harm, but because they see you as a money way. And so you always have to keep eye on all your stuff. It's very important. Family members. You say to a family member, I'm concerned that this may bring physical harm to you, and what's in you most likely if you're their family, you kind of know what's going on. They'll always tell you that it's everybody else that's hurting them, and that's why it's like that. Say, okay, well, what would it take you? What do you need that would take you away from this? I've heard many people say, oh, well, we need a place in town where we could take these people and they stay there. And I've seen a lot of in-town stuff, and it's usually not that effective. And you're going, oh, come on, there's good ratings. Yeah, they have people go through their program and they leave the program, they're not drinking. That doesn't mean that 3 weeks later they won't be drinking. That is so negative. No, you have to go and look at the results. There is some good results, but the issue is, did the real problem get dealt with? Some of the people that have severe addictions, you have to take them out of town somewhere where they cannot get near any place where they can actually get more drugs, alcohol, or get money or anything. And if you could have them that program, oh, you're jailing them. No, you're not. You're actually pulling them away from their usual habits. And now they're having to deal with things and face things. A lot of people in programs in town, you think they can't sneak out and go out and get things? Yeah, they can. But they know they'll get kicked out of the program, but some don't care. A bed in during really cold weather is a nice thing. So, how then do you help people that have addictions? You got to learn more about what caused the addiction. Are they running from responsibility? Do they hate their past and they're trying to flood it out? Is there mental issues involved? If they're narcissistic, I can guarantee you that's a big, huge thing. Will you be able to help them? You know what? I, that would be a big, big one. And if it's narcissistic with a borderline edge on it, you're going to have a lot of fun. And I would say leave it to somebody else, unless you really understand what you're doing. You could learn a lot and go online, and you could learn a lot online about the different things and what you're working with. So instead of learning every aspect of it, if you're working with a person with a certain type of situation, go online and on YouTube and learn from there. There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube, and you could learn from there on what to do, what not to do. People's experiences save you scars. They've had the scars and they could share you so you could learn and not experience those scars. We're coming into the Christmas months, but even after that, we're going to see a new year of a lot of pain around the world. As that happens, people will look for escapes. And what you can do, it's, if you have a lot of friends that are just getting weary, instead of, a lot of them might turn towards alcohol or drugs. Instead, try to get a basketball game going, a soccer game going, something that they could start achieving with and move away from those things. If they have a history of addictions, then it has to be handled differently. But addiction usually comes out of a person just saying, I'm done. I've had it. Or it could be something that's followed through. You won't know that right away. But as you start learning the 101 about addictions is the first place to go. Then learning out the different types, why it's there, how, keeps you safe and also keeps you more effective. And you're not to celebrate because somebody seems to be listening and getting better. It's a long-term thing. And I've seen a lot of people through drugs and alcohol, and most of them did not go into a rehab. I worked with them, some of them for weeks on end, and I spent a lot of time with them. And then it was more building who they are. And sometimes you'll find it's very funny. At one moment they'll surprise you. They'll show that they do believe you, and then they'll reveal to you even their stashes and all, and they want you to throw it away. I'll say this: if ever you're with a person and they want you to dump their drugs or alcohol, do not. They must be the one doing it, not you. If you do it, then they're just going to think I miss it. But if they do it, they did the action of doing it, and that's the most important thing. They need to be the ones doing it. All right. So, do you need to be there? No, but if you end up in that situation, what the person needs to know is that you see them as valuable. They're not just a body on the road. And the more you can treat them as a human being, they'll be bothered by you because they'll go, well, why aren't you walking around me? Because that's what they're used to having. But don't let them suck you into being there to fill their moment. That's not the case. Um, Another thing is if you decide to meet with somebody who's got addiction problems, you don't know them very well, meet them in open places, at a restaurant, at a park, or somewhere, but do it in the daytime. If it's nighttime, do it early and do it more in a place that where it's safer. One person I helped, and it was very odd how it all happened. The mother was trying to push me to minister to this girl, and I looked at her and I saw right away in her eyes that she was so turned off. And I said, I just simply gave her my number on a piece of paper and the name, and that's it. I said, if ever you want to talk, call me. Sometimes it's not convenient. They'll call you at times where it's not good, but you have to know when, what, and where, and how to help. And this girl was actually, she didn't tell me, but I had a very strong sense she was planning to commit suicide, and I was her last call. And I said, hey, why don't we meet for a coffee? Now, it was inconvenient for me because I was getting ready for bed. It was 11 at night. And I told her, I said, well, let's meet over here. And she was fine with that. And it took her an hour and a half to get to the spot because she kept coming, turning around, going the other way. And I just kept waiting. For me, I kept praying. And then she ended up coming. And then I talked with her. That night, she made a good stance in saying, I'm not going to kill myself. And she really was. There's a lot behind that one and a lot of history and family, and that I'm not going to share. But she actually got freed. And with her, it took months of continuous encouragement. There are other people jumped in at some point, and I went, yay, because it freed up my time. But there was a lot of work involved with helping her because it was not just about the addiction, it was about what happened to her when she was younger. And there was some deep trauma pain in there. And unless you really know what you're doing, pass it off to somebody else. But make sure you pass it off. Don't just say, sorry, can't help you. That's a bad message. Pass it off to somebody who actually, and make sure the person is not self-righteous. No one self-righteous should ever be helping out somebody who's having addiction issues because you never know what the cause is. Anyhow, so as I said, the most important thing is if you think you got to go out and do this because it'll make you a better person, don't do it. Absolutely don't do it. The only reason you do it is because the opportunity presents itself and you have a heart for people. If you start noticing people that are drunk all over the place and you're like, this shouldn't be, well, maybe try to have other people with you when you go around. And, if there's a whole bunch of drunks together somewhere, it's like I wouldn't advise it because first of all, they're under the influence. Don't approach them. It could be a bad day for you. Have I done it? Yes, but very wisely, and not when there's a group of them, because they could decide that they don't like you. You don't want that situation. So, as I'm saying, do it with wisdom and learn more about it before you go jump into that. But never at nighttime when it's really late and there's no help around, unless there's you've seen this person before, talked to them before. Um, like I said, I have seen incredible results. I saw a family, the woman and man were the husband and wife, they hated each other. They were getting ready for a divorce. Their kids hated them and their teens. And the woman came one evening and we had a group there. And the group all gave them words. And what it was, she actually accepted hope that night. From that day on, she quit drinking because the drinking was just to cover things. And can a person do that? Oh, yeah. I've seen some amazing situations, and it doesn't always happen that way. And most of the people you're going to work with is long term. But She went home that night, didn't touch drinking. Her husband, after about 2 weeks, realized she's a new person. She's not this negative person that's fighting everything. And then he quit drinking. And then it started to change the home. Then the children start to like their parents again. After a while, the wife and husband, both, when their life started to get healthier, started going out in ministry together, helping out people that were in addiction. So the best people to ever help are people who've been through addictions and come through and said, no way. And it's not, they don't even fight the thought of returning. They don't want it. They know it's their arch enemy. They'll change, they'll be great people to help people. But the most important thing is a person must know that you believe in them. You might not know them, but there's something you could believe in them. That's what they need. But don't fall into the rabbit trail that they'll throw at you, which is sympathy. You can care about them, but don't sympathize. If you sympathize, you're getting in there and you're listening to their stories, and their stories are full of rabbit trails. You'll go nowhere with that. Oh, there might be some truth in it. Sure, but you know what? There's a lot of people who need help. And you want to stick to recovery, not sticking to trying to figure everything out. It comes out naturally. The person will start talking about it on the way. And then that's when you have to make a decision. Am I capable of helping the person in this, or should somebody else be at this? The reason I'm bringing this up, too many people make that big mistake. They think they're going to go out and just save them all and help them off the road. Sorry. If you don't understand what you're getting into, you may find that you're the one that's going to need some help pretty fast. But it is awesome. The world needs more people that will be willing to help. Empathy is good, but empathy blindly is not. Where you just jump in and say, I'm going to help, I'm going to help. Yeah, great. But learn about it. Learn, understand what you're dealing with. And like I said, if you can remember anything from this message, is this. When they're in their addiction, if you walk by the road and they're breathing funny, convulsing, right away, immediately get some help. But keep yourself safe. Nudging their foot lightly, being at the bottom of their foot, keeps you in a safe position. Believe me, if they're that out of it, they're not going to jump up and tear off after you. And you do one or two zigzags, and they're not going to keep following you. They'll be into a wall or something. So keep yourself safe, number one. And you don't have to kick everybody's foot, but if you want to make sure they're safe, that's good. Um, in the wintertime, in cold months, that's when a lot of people with addiction will die. They'll come home, they can't get their door unlocked, they go around the side of the house and they pass out in the cold, and that's the end of it. Everyone's looking for them, but not on the side of the house. And a few days later, that's where they find them. That's sad. There's a lot of people like that. Understanding the recovery position is important in case they vomit when they wake up or semi-wake up. Understanding a lot of those things will help you. Taking courses in helping people with addiction is smart. Some courses are more just, um, I'll say it this way, go on YouTube, learn a lot in there, and it'll help you realize some things, whether even if it is for you or not. I'll be posting links in the future to go to. I'm just doing this right now because I know the time is coming. It's not long from now that a lot of people will need encouragement. Families that have a person with addiction, it could be a husband, it could be a wife, they can have fits of rages. They could take it out on their family. The family is usually who suffers. So when the family's like that, if you don't understand, find somebody who does to encourage them. And because they have to rise up in tough love. Tough love is sometimes where the person with the addiction has to be removed, or the family needs to be removed to a safe place for a while. Tough love is not like, oh, we want to be there. No. Tough love is they have to get off the bottle. And if they have alcohol in the house, out it goes. Well, yeah, that's going to cause a fight. Yeah, it will, but it'll keep you safe. And, you didn't buy into a marriage where alcohol's all over the place. A severe addict, you'll find there's bottles under everywhere. They got them tucked in. You think you found 10 of them, and there's another 10 somewhere else. And they have them tucked everywhere. Sometimes because they don't want to go looking for it, they got one close by. Other times it's if ever you find their stash, they got many more stashes that you won't look for. So, and drugs, same thing. Um, you can help. If you have the heart to help, you can help, but not at your own demise. If you have a heart that's been saying, I want to help people that are heavily addicted, then make a point of also learning the do's, the don'ts, the ways to deal with it. Never leave yourself in a position where somebody can hold you, like grab you. And if you're a girl ministering to a really intoxicated man, not smart. Um, keep your distance. If you're going to talk, make sure you have a way out. Make sure it's around a lot of people. Um, for guys, make sure that they don't see you as a threat and that you are ready to defend yourself. Make sure that they see you as a nice person. And whenever it changes that tone, then it's time to say, hey, I'll catch you next time. But again, like I said, when they're intoxicated is not the time to try to see them around the corner. They will weep, they will cry. It means nothing. It means nothing. Drunk drivers on the road kill a family and they go, oh, and they cry out like crazy. Then they go out and drive again, drunk. So what's the problem? They see themselves as the victim. And until you understand that, you'll be wasting a lot of time. So please, I'll be posting in a short time. There will be another one. It won't be right away, but probably in a few weeks or a month, I will post some more on dealing with addictions, how to deal with family members, how to work around that. The most important with family members, it's when they're sober, not when they're depressed the next day, but afterwards you say, hey, you know what? This is tearing into your life. And I don't quite understand it, but I'd love to understand it. And but at the same time, you say it's also affecting the home. And if they're really into themselves, if it's narcissism, they're going to turn it about you and that you're the one that's causing it. And they'll probably even act angry. And I'll close out with this one. In no case, in any case, if somebody is physically violent or threatening you with violence, that is right away where you need to get help because the person is no longer even concerned about your well-being and it should never be accepted. And women, men have learned to accept the violence. It's not just women that get beaten, men get beaten too. You can have some, small pints that can be very tough. And but wherever there's physical violence, it's time to put a stop to it right away. Don't put up with that. A lot of times the bully will stop if they're dealt with um, legally, they won't do it again. But at the same time, if they get away with it, they might become worse abusers. So be aware, you have to deal with that, okay? So I'll leave this for this place for tonight. I'm doing this because I see something coming and I know it'll be great and we need to help people. Don't get caught in rabbit trails. Keep a person focused on their value, on where they're going, on the hope for tomorrow. Hope is the key. Without hope, people don't come around. All right. Catch you later.